The grand hall of Velara Prime glittered with crystal light. It was a chamber designed not for comfort but for intimidation. Towering marble columns, vaulted ceilings where banners of alien dynasties fluttered in a faint current, and rows upon rows of alien nobles seated on curved silver benches. Every eye turned when I entered, the lone human invited to an audience that history itself would remember. I was Sergeant Daniel Rourke. No diplomat, no politician, just a soldier who'd stumbled into circumstances too large for any one man to handle. The Union had chosen me to represent humanity because, of all the envoys, I was the only one who had saved Queen Zillara's life. That bought me something money and treaties couldn't: her attention. And in this hall, attention was more dangerous than any plasma rifle. The nobles of the Scifi Empire, sleek, tall beings with eyes like molten gold, sat rigid, whispering to one another. They loathed me, the outsider, the upstart ape from a frontier world. Humanity had only recently been recognized as a spacefaring power, and many of these lords would rather we stayed chained to our little blue planet. I stood awkwardly at the entrance, scanning for a place among the lower-ranked guests. There were open seats along the edge of the chamber. My instinct screamed at me to fade into the background, to survive this political theater unnoticed. That's when I felt it. A firm hand on my forearm. Not hostile. Not gentle either. Possessive. I turned my head, and there she was. Queen Zillara of the Scifi Empire. She was radiant in a gown of living silk that shimmered with the colors of dusk, every movement catching starlight from the hall's crystal fixtures. Her eyes, emerald with threads of silver, fixed on me with a mixture of amusement and something deeper, something dangerous. "Sit next to me, human," she said, loud enough for the hall to hear. The whispers turned into a storm. Dozens of alien nobles stiffened. Some hissed their disapproval. Others glared at me with naked hatred. But her hand did not release my arm. I swallowed hard. "Your Majesty," I could. "Daniel Rourke," she interrupted smoothly. "You saved my life on Epsilon Ridge. You earned the right. Do not dishonor me by standing apart." Her words echoed like a challenge across the hall. My heart hammered in my chest. I could feel every eye drilling into me as I allowed myself to be guided to the dais. The Queen's throne was an obsidian crescent adorned with silver veins, and next to it was a smaller seat meant for advisors. That's where she pulled me down beside her. The hall went silent, and in that silence my life changed forever. The beginning of trouble. Zillara leaned close, her voice dropping so only I could hear. "Do you see their faces? You unsettle them. That is good." I managed a tight smile. "I'm not sure your court agrees with you. They do not need to." Her lips curved. "They need only to obey." It wasn't the first time she had tested me. Months earlier, during the war on Epsilon Ridge, I had dragged her out of the ruins of her own command bunker while Scifi traitors tried to assassinate her. I hadn't cared who she was at the time. To me, she was just another soldier who needed saving. But afterward, she had looked at me differently than anyone else ever had. Not as a tool, not as a subject, but as equal. Now, seated at her side in the very heart of her empire, I realized what that meant. She wasn't just honoring me. She was declaring something to the galaxy. The council session began, filled with droning reports about border skirmishes and trade tariffs. But I could feel the tension thickening around us like smoke. The nobles spoke past us, their disdain obvious. They wanted me gone. They wanted humans back in the dirt. And then one of them, Lord Vadran, rose to speak. He was tall even for a Scifi, his features sharp, his voice slick with venom. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing, though his eyes never left me. It troubles this council to see you distracted. This human interloper may have saved you once, but must he now sit among rulers as though he were one of us? The chamber rumbled with agreement. Dozens of voices chimed in. I clenched my fists under the table, ready to be ejected in disgrace. But Zillara rose slowly, her hand brushing my arm again, claiming me before them all. This human, she said, her voice cold fire, is the reason I draw breath. None of you lifted a finger when treachery sought my life. He did. So long as I reign, Daniel Rourke sits beside me. The chamber erupted in shouts. And I knew at that moment I was no longer just a soldier. I was a symbol. The middle, a court of knives. In the days that followed, the Queen made sure I was seen. At feasts, at strategy councils, at ceremonies where alien races bent the knee, I was always at her side. First I thought she was playing politics, using me as leverage against her enemies, flaunting the human who had saved her life as proof that she could cross barriers none of them dared. But as the night stretched on, I realized there was something more. In private, she spoke to me not as a queen but as a woman weary of the crown. She asked me about Earth, about the taste of rain, about the feel of dirt under bare feet. She laughed when I told her about my grandmother's cooking, about baseball games, about how humans dance badly but with joy. And sometimes when she thought I wasn't looking, her eyes softened. But court was not blind. The whispers grew louder. Some nobles called me her pet. Others accused me of sorcery, of using human tricks to cloud her mind. Lord Vedran in particular seethed with fury. He began rallying others, weaving conspiracies in the shadows. One evening, after a long council meeting, Zillara dismissed the attendants and leaned toward me. They plot against us. Us, said surprised. Yes, Daniel. Do not think you stand apart now. They see you as part of me. And so they will try to cut you away. She wasn't wrong. That night, I found an assassin waiting in my chambers, serity steel flashing in the dark. I barely survived, my arm cut open before the guards stormed in. When Zillara saw the blood, her composure cracked. She knelt by my bed, hands trembling as she pressed bandages against the wound. You bleed because of me, she whispered. I shook my head. No, because of them. Her emerald eyes burned with fury. Then I will make them pay. The turning point. The tension exploded weeks later during the Festival of Crowns, a gathering where rulers from allied species pledged loyalty. The hall was more crowded than ever, banners of a dozen worlds hanging side by side. Zillara stood before them, regal, unshaken. I stood at her side, scars still fresh on my arm. Lord Vedran struck. He strode forward, a ceremonial blade in hand, and declared, "This farce ends now. A human has no place beside our queen. If you will not cast him down, then I will." The hall gasped. Guards surged, but too slowly. Vedran lunged, not at me but at her. Without thinking, I moved. My body remembered Epsilon Ridge, the chaos, the fire. I tackled him, ripping the blade from his hand, the two of us crashing to the floor. He was stronger, faster, but rage fueled me. I slammed his wrist, broke his grip, pinned him down with raw human stubbornness. When the guards pulled him away, the hall buzzed with shock. I stood there, panting, staring at Zillara, and she was staring at me. Then, before all assembled, she descended from her throne and took my hand.